Welcome to Behind the Model, a show diving into the virtual world and exploring its stories with the VTubers who lead the way. Before you can move as a live 2D model, you need to get an experienced rigger to breathe life into whatever sketch you desire. I know all about it because I'm just a static PNG tuber for now. Riggers have become a beloved part of the VTubing community as a result. Haneko, however, has a much earlier start in the space that predates live 2D's use as a VTuber necessity. A passionate artist and animator from a young age, they have undertaken some big projects in the space and even gone through a few changes themselves thanks to VTubing's power. Haneko, welcome to Behind the Model.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
I have adored some of the cute little rigs that you have put together and some of the really cool projects that you worked on, and I can't wait to talk about it all a little bit in this little podcast. But I guess as an animator yourself, I would really love to hear how you got started in a field like that, because it's such an interesting field and so many people come into it from so many different angles nowadays. I want to kind of get an idea of how you started as an animator.
Yes, I've been passionate about animation since I was very young. I always wanted to get into animation since I watched Spirited Away in theaters when I was about 6 or 7 in Korea. And my mother, Mama Lich, pointed at the posters with the main character and was like, "Oh, look, it's you." And I thought, oh, that's exactly me. And I always wanted to kind of replicate that experience of having yourself on screen and seeing your experiences sort of dramatized and giving you sort of a creative drive. And that's been my dream ever since I was young. And even if I was kind of discouraged from that passion time to time, I actually studied a different study for a while. I studied engineering, and then I finally said, no, I have to go into animation. I have to do this. And I studied it for about a year in my school. But I realized the kind of animation I was enjoying was not very accepted, at least in my school. My school was more focused on Western animation and kind of discouraged anime styles in general, saying, it won't sell. So it really discouraged me and made me not very into I didn't really like coming to school anymore. But then VTubing started becoming a thing just as I was feeling those feelings, and anime was so accepted. It's like the norm here. And I started drawing that style, and I actually had to get used to drawing more anime style because I was so used to drawing more Western styles for school. And I ended up stopping school altogether after a while because it just wasn't teaching me the things I wanted to learn anymore. And I was learning a lot as a self-taught artist as well. I was already familiar with VTube Studio. I mean VTube Studio. I mean Live 2D a little bit because of Fire Emblem. I believe it was, which Fire Emblem was it? One of them had the Live 2D characters you could interact with after you build relationship with them.
Fate's Awakening, I think.
Awakening, yes.
Yeah.
And then that got me first interested, and I started looking into the program before the pandemic boom. There was some resources online on tutorials about how to use the program using when it was still only in Japanese, and I had to follow, I believe, Brian Zui's YouTube tutorials for my own model eventually. Yes. Made my first character, Space Bunny Plays, who was a very different character from what I have now. Eventually I rebranded because it just felt like it wasn't reflecting me anymore, but it still holds a special place in my heart with that janky rig with a lot of limited movements.
Well, that's like the abridged version of everything. That was like, there was so much to build off of, like your background, your history in art school, Fire Emblem as an entry into Live 2D. Like, there's so many different stories in there.
3 years of stories into what is it, like 5 minutes? How long did I talk for?
Yeah, no, that was about 5 minutes. Like it was even less. So there you go. Um, let's wind the clock all the way back.
Yes.
You mentioned you grew up in Korea. You moved. I remember you telling me you moved when you were quite young. Is there anything that you hold on to from your time growing up in Korea, or remember from your time growing up in Korea, and how it shaped you today?
Definitely the anime style, as I mentioned, is like more prominent, I guess, like the more popular style in the Eastern countries. So I grew up on it, and that's the style I'm used to. There is also the cultural difference, cultural things that I kept on to. I still keep in touch with Korean VTubers as well. I made some great friends in the community, and I'm able to stay connected with them because I still speak the language thanks to my family, making sure I keep that skill.
Mm.
I can also like talk about some interesting things about my culture during streams. I think my viewers really enjoy listening up and hearing about like the different kinds of snacks or experiences, like like how even stuff like karaoke, like how people are more used to like those big open bar karaoke's, while I'm more used to the private booth karaoke's.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. Even like I think my viewers enjoy hearing about that. So a lot of stuff has been influencing my content since it is my background, I guess.
Mm. Speaking of Korean snacks and Korean food, I miss like street side tteokbokki that I was able to get in like Busan.
I love those.
Like all the street
That's
food
one
in
of my
South Korea.
biggest. Those are one of my biggest memories of Korea.
Yeah. This will very quickly turn into a Korea podcast if I let it, because like, it's like my favorite place in the world. So we'll put that down there. And I guess we'll talk about your move to the West, as we'll put it, and like, to North America, and added in having to adjust to a different culture and a different lifestyle. How was that adjustment for you, especially when you say that a lot of your creative roots are very deeply rooted in East Asian culture?
I think it gave me a lot of what do you call it? It opened my mind as well to sort of how the world is. Like the world is so big. It also, obviously connected me to Western side of the world, or like I guess all kinds of sides of the world. And it also kind of gave me insight into like how to succeed as a EM VTuber, I think, because I realized like EM VTubers, like if you look at like Hololive and Nijisanji, like auditions, they're like, oh, do you speak another language, do you sing, do you do this, do you do that? And like it just kind of gave me the insight of like, oh, you need these languages because these are like really important to these companies. And like the outreach, like language is so powerful. It really ingrained in me what a powerful tool it is. And I feel like it also gave me a benefit of sort of it's so weird to say, but like sometimes the Korean VTuber friends, they also like look at the fact that I speak English mainly, and they're like, oh my god, like a like a special kind of VTuber. So that kind of is a nice feeling.
Yeah, like you can still stay in touch with like your culture, and like even like the trends and like the youth culture of Korea through VTubing. But then it's also like you've got the bilingual power, which is a very special power.
Yes, definitely. Sometimes my Korean friends are like, I want to learn English. Teach me. And I'm like, how do I even start?
Yeah, it's like, it's one thing to speak the language. It's another thing to actually try to teach the language to someone else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess for you, like you mentioned that even though you were very passionate about animation when you went to college, you started out in engineering. Was that because of like any family pressure or any external pressures being like, all right, animation probably couldn't be a career for me, so I need to go and do something that's a little bit more conventional?
For sure. It was like, I don't think I can make money, especially as I mentioned, anime style is the style I enjoyed, and it kept being discouraged. I remember actually, I brought my art when I was like 14 or something, or 12 or 14, to like an animation studio teacher who like specialized in like helping you prepare a portfolio for that school I studied in for animation. And she was like, you won't make it. This isn't good enough. And so I just kind of, there was a lot of discouragement, I think, around at the time. And so and also there was a lot of lack of self-confidence in my own art. So like if you say I want to be an artist, people who care about you will usually be like, are you sure you can like make it? Do you think you have what it takes to like succeed? And I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure, but I just know that it's something I want to do, and eventually I think I also don't regret those little side paths I had to take either. I feel like it taught me a lot of things, opened my mind to a lot of things as well. Math is always helpful, as much as we all hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like if somebody is ever like, oh, you got into art because you suck at math, I can say no, that's not true. This is totally not true.
I'm not just an arts major for the sake of it. I could do the other side, I promise.
Yeah, I just hate it.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, this is what you wanted to do, so you may as well give it a try while you can. So,
you gotta enjoy life. You get one.
yeah, exactly. And you mentioned in the Western art schools, and the one that you went to in particular, discouraging the anime style, and that like kind of made you drop out at the end of it. What was it like going, like kind of, not necessarily going against the grain, but like having a different style and that not being accommodated for? Do you think there was like a racist element at play, or just like a particular stylistic element?
Oh yeah, I would say there was some people were just stylistic. Some people just definitely just was not into that style, I guess, personally. But I had a teacher who was definitely like not happy with the entire culture. But like it's just one of those things that you can't help. It's just how people are, the world is sometimes, and especially in certain areas of the world. And it wasn't like openly either. Like, you know how when people talk about racism, they're like, oh, like they think about the most extremes, but it was more like usually subtle little hints that was like, oh, my teacher doesn't like this because it's not the style that he's used to, and that doesn't necessarily mean it won't succeed, but it just became like a constant, and because of that, it also made me, as I mentioned, I was already pretty lacking in self-confidence, so it caused me to feel even less self-confident, and eventually it affected my motivation in school as well. Yeah.
How did you kind of turn that around then, in being able to motivate yourself to go down the self-learning path and the self-taught path, starting out with all things Fire Emblem?
Yes, the Fire Emblem thing, it kind of helped. Some of my friends were also like into that sort of geeky, out of path interest, and they started like some of the tutorials I followed were made by my friends, like personal friends, so it really helped seeing those. And then also even today, it continues to be something that I am able to keep going and stay motivated with because of my friends who are staying in this sort of passion. I think the last time we talked, I mentioned my friend North, who is also a streamer, and she started streaming at the same. She started streaming after me, and she is a real life friend of mine. So like, and there's also a bunch of other real life friend of mine who I'm in a small community with, and you know, help this and that with their models and stuff with. And it just it's always motivating when you see people you care about making content they care about and have fun with it, and then it just makes you want to do the same thing with your own stuff and keep working hard at so you can keep helping them make their own stuff too.
And when you were starting out on Live 2D, like there wasn't the absolute dearth of resources that there is now. Like there's billions and billions of tutorials now.
Yes. Oh my god.
What was it like back then, picking up the program? And obviously the program has evolved in functionality.
Oh my god, for sure. I remember when I was just having trouble even exporting the model or even like getting it to move and staying at that angle. Like I didn't know what all these buttons meant. But like it was a lot of trial and error, and I guess this is a weird kind of weird tangent thing, but it kind of reminded me of when I played Pokemon in Japanese because I didn't have the English version or the Korean version.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know how to save, so I just like remembered the katakana for seibu or whatever.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of those days, like, oh, this katakana means this. I already had a little bit of Japanese background from school, so that also helped a little bit with katakana and hiragana. But then when it came to kanji, I was like, oh no,
This is one step too far.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I guess like the extension of that is Live 2D can probably do so much more nowadays than what it used to, right? Like how have you seen like that evolve and the tools that you have as an animator and as a rigger evolve over time?
Oh man, it's just constantly updating, and it's so good to see the programmers continuing to improve the tools we have to make even cooler models in the future. Like I think one of the more recent tools, I still need to learn it, and my friend Kieran had a really good tutorial about it called blend shapes. Still not really sure what that is, but I heard it helps with the mouth movements. There's also another thing where you can change the color of like parts of your model without having to go back into Photoshop, and like you can use that to make your model like key it. You can key it so that you can have it like change colors live without it being as much of a hassle. It's so many things that they're improving all the time, and I'm excited to see what else they're gonna do. I'm excited to see one day when schools start having, like schools that I like the ones that I went to have Live 2D as a program to teach. I think actually a Korean friend of mine, Titania, is teaching it in Korea, having some online lessons. Yeah. Which is
like,
really cool.
Did you like see that as like the next step is like, this is just like another animation tool that, students will have to eventually learn?
Yes, absolutely. I hope so, because I think for at least for me, it was a more accessible tool than sort of the similar equivalent program that I had to use in school. There was another one. I think it was called, it was Toon Boom. It's a more in-depth program that's more used for TV animation, and I was like, this isn't really what I want to do. But Live 2D is more focused on just models, and you know what? I'm okay with just models at the moment, at least.
Yeah. So with like all of that background and all, I guess like these all kind of things overlapping, like your love of anime and kind of being engrossed in that, then learning through your animation skills through Live 2D, how did it then come into VTubing and not just being, an animator in VTubing and rigging models for people, but also streaming yourself?
I think most riggers usually end up starting off with like with a wish, hope to become a VTuber, an anime character, because they're all little nerds like me. Actually, this is a funny story. You probably know Twin Tails, the rigger. I actually collabed with her a little bit, a couple times when we were just starting out. She was like a Viroid, she used a Viroid model at the time, and it's like, where was I going with this? Why did I mention Twin Tails? But like, sorry.
No, that's all good. Lost the train of thought?
Yes, lost my train of thought. What was your first question?
I was just talking about like how you got into VTubing and
Oh
actually
yes.
bringing yourself to life rather than just animating models for
Oh
other
yes.
people.
Yes, I think like watching her journey as well. It kind of feels like uh everybody, like even big riggers like her too. Like she started off, um just wanting to be an anime character and doing silly things together. And um even if like I have so much respect for people who just start off animation and just do animation. I haven't seen a lot of that, but I think there's a little bit of all of us who wants to be a cartoon character inside. And it's really afterwards it becomes a matter of I want to help other people achieve that dream as well, because it's been such a great journey for me, I
Mm.
guess. And some people are able to take that even further, and you always want to help people uh, reach those dreams.
And I guess like it also gives you a little bit of peace of mind and comfort in VTubing that you don't have to put out your identity. You can just be the anime girl online.
Oh yes, for sure. I think um, a lot of my viewers, a lot of my clients also come in as viewers who kind of notice like, oh, there's a streamer. Oh, I can do stuff like this if I commission them. And it's a little bit of a safety net that this person is able to do these kinds of things because um we talked about it a little before, but I do present myself as non-binary. And also, I have a very high-pitched voice. Whenever I used to go on voice calls in Team Fortress 2, people would like yell at me.
Oh my god, that's
People
a
would be like,
throwback.
yeah, it was so I was actually really young at the time, so it was kind of a trauma.
Oh.
But yeah, but because of that, um I was always afraid of putting myself online, but now I feel like I have this confidence to do all kinds of things and share a little bit of myself thanks to this larger than life persona I have.
Mm.
And yeah, and I think I I feel like a lot of my clients and friends are feeling the same way, especially if you're like any kind of minority.
Mm.
Like um yeah, it gets to be very difficult in online spaces.
Mm. I want to talk a little bit about, like, I guess your clients more broadly is, like, you get to see the other side of VTubing. Like, you get to see the nervous clients who are, like, tiptoeing over to an artist and being like, hey,
Mm.
can you do this for me, please? I'm starting out. I'm new. And what is it like seeing, like, the other side? And, like, do you have a few stories of, like, just, like, the nervous
Yeah,
clients or the excited clients?
it's always such a wonderful. It's you can tell if a client's like really nervous, you're gonna probably, like, at least for me, I'm gonna be a good friend with that person afterwards, because I'm like that too. If I ever had to like ask somebody for art, but like people are, it's such a I guess, what do you call it, expose is you kind of expose yourself. It's very difficult to share your private interests and stuff to a complete stranger, so I can understand why they're nervous.
Mm.
And at the same time, it makes me excited that they're like trusting me with such a important and safeguarded plan and project.
Mm.
And yeah, as a independent rigger, at least you get to see all kinds of parts of your clients' personal interests shine, and parts of their character, or even sometimes like I like meet a character and then like they end up becoming I guess as a streamer, like you see parts of them that you didn't expect, but then it becomes so like alive with the with the character and the person with the voice behind it and moving around.
Mm.
It's so nice to see.
And I
And
guess you would,
hmm,
like, you would just more broadly see a different side to VTubing than most other people would.
I have some, I guess, me and my friends call it baby photos when it comes to like sketches, the first sketches to
Yeah.
get them like started. I have some of those that I don't like share to other clients, or other people, but just with like me and my clients. And it's always nice seeing like looking back in our conversations. Sometimes it's also funny seeing like if they're like really like casual with me now, but then I look back at our convo and they were like, "Ooh, can you? I'm really nervous about this, but can you help me out with this?" But then like you look at them now and they're like guns blazing, screaming.
Complete gremlin energy in the DMs.
Exactly, it's
Yeah.
lovely.
Um, I want to. A lot of people would be familiar with your work through the Apex Legends Gaiden collaboration, where Respawn and EA they worked on a few VTubers models based off of the characters in Apex Legends, and you actually got to animate and rig a couple of them. Off the top of my head, you did Mirage and Watson, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
you got them right.
Yeah. How did that come about?
Because of my long background in VTubing, I guess I was in my friend group the VTuber person to ask about VTubing stuff. So, when the person who was in charge of like the project, the manager, was given the project to like sort of start planning out the scope of things, he was like, I can you help me like maybe like get an idea of how this process works, because I'm a VTuber fan, but as like a fan you don't get as much, I guess, insight into sort of the creation process. And he needed to help with that. So I introduced him to some artists. I talked about my process a little bit, and then we got a team together after. Well, he got a team to I say we he got a team together after, and then he felt that my rigging was good for the project, so I was very honored. Honestly, I would have been happy just helping out a little bit at the beginning, but it made me really happy that I got such a cool project to work on, and I got to meet a bunch of different artists in the community and make great relationships with them. I'm still keeping in contact with them. And the project ended up being such a wonderful experience. And I hope people keep enjoying the free model.
I mean, it got a really good reception. Like the one thing that I remember was Nice Week, who's a very prominent Apex Legends streamer, was like talking about them and like trying them out a little bit, and he was so into it.
He was so cool to talk to, like when we were prepping everything too. This is really silly of me. This is a little extra thing. Like I didn't need to be in the extra setup call, but I was just so excited throughout the whole project. I was like, can I be in it anyway?
Yeah.
And so I got to see a little bit of like each person, and like Nicewook was so excited when he got his model. It was so cute to see. Whenever you see your client get the model and like you get to see them to test it out first, it's the most wonderful thing to see. The debut stream, oh, so cool.
Is there like a difference for you when you have to do animation for an individual person and you get to see the ins and outs of an individual person versus like the traditional animation career pathway? It's like, oh, you're working on anime, you're working on a cartoon, you're working on these larger projects where you make a show and you put it out, but you don't actually get to see the reception too much.
Oh yeah, that's, I think, definitely part of what drew me to the live 2D sphere, because as you said, when it comes to big animation projects, usually, because animation in general is a collaborative medium, it ends up being like your work ends up being a small blip at the end usually, and it's hard to see the payout anytime soon. But with models, it kind of becomes smaller scale, and that helps you see the project pay off faster, I suppose. I think that's a little bit of a draw to it for some people. You also, I guess, this has been a bit of a problem in the community. It depends on what kind of artist you are, but you also can kind of, if you do both rigging and art, like I do, you get to be like your entire team manager, sort of thing. and that gives you some experience as opposed to and also I guess it gives you a bit of a communication skills too, because if you ever have a issue with like the PSD with the model, you got to talk to the original artist, you got to talk to the client, and you also like even without having issues, you got to learn those skills as a creator, like just communicating with all kinds of people.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to all the people who do art and rigging, by the way. Like the artists who do both. Shout out to my own art parent hero who also does it. They're doing both my art and rigging. It is just it blows my mind how insanely talented people like you are.
Oh, that's too kind.
It's
I like to call it insanity.
I mean, it's just a lot of skills that you have to kind of know and learn and be very proficient at to try and, you know, make a living out of it. So it's very admirable, the work that you do.
Thank you.
I guess, like, to wrap it up here, like, where do you see, like, the VTuber landscape going in terms of rigging? Is there any cool technological developments that you see on the horizon? Do you see more resources coming in? And I guess, where do you see yourself going?
I think in broad VTubing sphere, what I noticed recently, at least on the Korean side of things, which is really cool, there's this phenomenon called isekai idols. I don't know if everybody's heard of them, but yeah, they're like, they focus on 3D models and VR chat interaction, which is really cool compared to 2D streams like Hololive and Nijisanji. But even Hololive and Nijisanji, they're going into 3D models and stuff and interacting with 3D environments. So I'm wondering, is that maybe perhaps the next direction? Even like the tracking for face tracking for 3D models are even getting amazing. I don't know if it'll ever replace live 2D. I think they're very different mediums and they both have their each individual like strengths. But I feel like that's part of the technology over there. It seems to be growing a lot lately. As for myself, I like to hope I'm working really hard on expanding my portfolio, making more independent models for other creators. I gotta work on one after this, but there's that, and I after I build it enough, I'm hoping I can get more amazing opportunities like the Apex project and maybe other people who might be who would want to trust me with their projects. I would love to do this as a living.
I mean, like, do you think it was all worth abandoning engineering and even abandoning art school to try and make it work?
I mean, like, I would say I couldn't. I don't know. I can't see myself doing anything else, even if it's not successful. This is something I wanted to do, always, and sometimes that's life, I guess.
Just gotta give it a try, because you don't know if you don't try.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Haneko, thank you so much for sharing your story on Behind the Model, and just all the wild stories from how one viewing of Spirited Away at 6 years old creates a VTuber rigger N years down the line. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ducky, for your time. I'm sorry if I ramble too much on different crazy topics. I have a lot of things to say.
No, that's the whole point of this. That's the whole point of this show. We want to hear all of your stories. So thank you. Haneko is the latest guest on my new series, Behind the Model, diving into the stars who make VTubing the creative medium we love. If you're interested in more of Haneko's story, you can read the accompanying article linked in the description. You can also find all of Haneko's social media channels below. Until next time, thank you.